Hello, good afternoon or good evening. Thank you for joining us at this digital open day event. I'm Dr. Zoe Groves. I'm the admissions tutor for the School of History, Politics and International Relations at the University of Leicester. And I'm going to be giving a talk over the next 20-25 minutes or so about the history degree programs that we offer here at Leicester. Hopefully you can see my slide. This is with my email address. So do make a note of that and do feel free to get in touch with me directly if you have any questions about anything that I'm talking to you about today. I look forward to hearing from you. Okay, so why study history at Leicester? Our degrees allow you to tailor your history degree to your own interests and your future plans from the very first year. And what I mean by that is there's an element of choice built into the degree program from the first year, but at every year throughout your degree. And hopefully in this talk, I'll give you an idea of exactly the different sorts of ways that you can shape and tailor the degree to your own interests. We have a very distinctive curriculum, and we're always refreshing what we teach and also reviewing how we teach. And I'll give you some examples and some insights into the different topics, the different historical topics and themes and periods that you can study with us at Leicester. We have excellent graduate employment rates. So this statistic of 96% is the employability statistic. And what that means is that's the percentage of our graduate students that are in full-time employment or further higher education within 6 months of completing their degrees. And what that shows, I think, is that graduates from Leicester, and particularly history graduates from Leicester, are in a really strong position when it comes to going on to into the jobs market after they've completed their degree. History at Leicester was ranked second for the quality of its research in the government's Research Excellence Framework. So this is an exercise conducted by the government every sort of eight years or so. But what this means really is that you will be taught by experts in the field of history. And so there's a really strong connection between the quality of the research that we produce and the quality of teaching at Leicester. The staff enthusiasm and approachability are qualities that are frequently highlighted by our students. We pride ourselves on being very approachable to our students. So we have feedback and support hours every week where students can drop in and come and meet with our full-time staff members. All of our students are also allocated a personal tutor, and I'll tell you a bit more about the personal tutoring program towards the end of the presentation. And finally, just to flag up here, the Global Citizen Study Abroad program, because it provides the widest choice of global destinations of arguably any university in the country. So I'll tell you a bit more about the study abroad options in a moment. Why choose Leicester for a history degree? Well, we're very highly ranked, and you can see from this slide here that history at Leicester has actually been ranked above many Russell Group history departments. So history departments in that group of universities, often referred to within the media as the kind of elite universities. And really what I'm trying to say here is that not that league tables are the most important factor when making your decision, but I think it's really it's a good sign to see that the university that you're interested is highly ranked alongside some of those other prestigious institutions from the Russell Group. But most importantly, I think when deciding on your degree program, I would really look at the content of the degree and really also try and visit the university in the city where you're thinking of studying and to look at all of those things as a package as well. But obviously we're pleased that we're very competitive in these league table results in the Times and the Guardian. So our vision for studying history, for us, history isn't about when something happened. It's more to do with why something happened. As historians, we're concerned with understanding processes of change over time. We also ask how and why we remember certain events in the way that we do, and how does the past impact our present and our future? How does history shape our society, our identities, and the decisions that we make? So our aim is to make history a really versatile degree and to allow you to think about issues to do with human behavior very broadly, including aspects of sociology, psychology, politics, economics, and so on. And I think it's really important to note as well, there seems to be a sort of a misconception sometimes that if you do a history degree, you're not really sure what kind of career you might go on to afterwards, besides potentially being a history teacher or working in a museum. And obviously those are excellent career paths to take on, and many of our graduates do pursue those options. But with a history degree, you can actually enter into a really wide range of different professions, and I'll give you some examples of that in a moment. But our history graduates also tend to have quite competitive earnings. So the salaries of history graduates later on in their careers is often comparable to graduates from the science and technology degree subjects as well, what we call STEM subjects. So as a graduate from a humanities degree, there's lots of evidence that shows that you're in a good position in terms of entering the jobs market. And that's largely to do with the kinds of skills that you'll develop while studying a history degree. And again, I'll say a bit more about that in a moment. So what kinds of history courses do we offer at Leicester? We've got a single honours history degree, so the BA in history, and we also have a joint honours programme, so you can study history alongside American studies, politics, international relations, ancient history, archaeology, and English. Our single honours degree programme allows you to study history from the medieval period through to what we call the early modern period, and right up to the 21st century. But if you're interested in just focusing on the more recent past, you can also apply to do the BA in modern and contemporary history, in which case you'd just be focusing on modules that look at the 20th and the 21st centuries. And you also have the opportunity, if you're doing the BA modern and contemporary history degree, to choose some of the politics and international relations modules that are taught within our school. We also offer a number of master's degree programs and particular specialist pathways that our students can go on to really sort of develop an expertise in a particular area. And they include regional and local history, urban history, and Holocaust and genocide studies. So those are some of the areas that Leicester is really kind of known for in terms of our expertise. To give you a sense of the kind of options that we teach and that you can choose from, here's a list of some of our second year options that we've taught in recent years. These do change from one year to the next, but there tends to be more continuity in terms of the teaching of these options. The option modules range very widely over period and place, and you can study on the single honours programme if you're looking, you can study modules from the medieval period. You can look at the rise and fall of the Soviet Union, for example. You can embark on a module on modern Chinese history, which might be something completely new to you at university. So you can see here a sort of the very wide scope of options that you have in studying history at Leicester. In the final year of your degree programme, all of our students take a dissertation, and this is an independent research project where you will produce approximately a kind of 10,000 word research project, so piece of work that is focused on your own topic that you would arrive at in consultation with a supervisor. And your supervisor will be an expert in that area, so they'll be able to advise you on how to access primary sources or historical documents that will allow you to do your own original research project and produce this really substantial piece of work. And this is often the sort of really the opportunity for our students to shine and really kind of show what they're capable of producing. And we get some excellent dissertations produced by students in their final year. Alongside the dissertation, you'll also do what we call a special subject. And this is a module that runs across both semesters, so the entire academic year. It's in-depth, it's again primary source driven, and what I mean by that is you'll be focusing largely on historical documents. They might not be conventional written documents, you might be looking at photographs, you might be analysing different kinds of sources, oral histories, for example. But each of the special subjects are again taught by a leading expert in the field. So, for example, I teach a special subject on the history of 20th century Southern Africa, looking at cultures of struggle and liberation. And we explore the experience of apartheid South Africa, the rise of independence and nationalist movements in Southern African countries such as Zimbabwe and Malawi, and the process of decolonization or liberation struggles, as they're known in some of those countries. In addition to the special subject in the dissertation, you'll also get to choose an option module in your third year. So again, you have these optional modules built in at every stage of the degree. And there's a wide range of choice. I can show you some more examples here, again, ranging from the medieval period, topics including Christian-Muslim interactions in the medieval Mediterranean, cities and the making of modern South Asia. So you might choose to do something completely different in your final year, or indeed in your second year. You might also choose to take up a subject like making Nazis, propaganda and persuasion in the Third Reich, perhaps building on a topic that you've had the opportunity to study at school or at college. In terms of the style of learning, so how we teach, we combine lectures which are larger group teaching events where you might have between 20 or 100 people, 100 students in a larger lecture theatre. And we combine these with seminars and tutorials, which are the smaller group teaching events. There tends to be more of the small group teaching over the course of the 3 years, and we put on more lectures in the first year to really help with that transition for our students from school or college, or for mature students into university life, where learning tends to be much more self-directed. But also interactive, as it is in those small group sessions, and as it can be as well, even in the larger lectures. In terms of the contact hours, you will have between 9 and 12 hours a week, and this varies slightly depending whether you're doing the joint or the single honours degree and which modules you're taking. You can also build on those contact hours. So those are the sort of minimum number of hours that you would have a week with your lectures and seminars and tutorials. But you can always arrange one-to-one supervisions, meetings with module tutors, with your personal tutor, with your dissertation tutor, for example. And there's additional workshop sessions that we put on for first, second, and third years. There's careers events. There's plenty of other sort of activities and events for you to get involved in as well, in addition to those core contact hours. We have a very good range of digital resources, as well as some excellent library resources, and a really fantastic library, which is a great space for independent study, but also group study. We also try, where possible, to take our students off campus, to take learning outside of the classroom, and we really enjoy taking students to visit museums, heritage sites, or on other kinds of field trips. So, for example, you can see pictured here some of our final year students on a field trip associated with one of the special subject modules, which took them to Seville in Spain just a couple of years ago. Okay, and in terms of assessment, we have a really wide variety of different types of assessment. You're probably pleased to hear we don't have any kind of conventional exams. You might be asked to do what we would call a scene test or a take-home exam, where you're asked to complete a task or to respond to a set of questions within a limited time frame of a couple of days or a week. But we have a really wide variety of different kinds of assessments. You might be asked to produce a podcast, to produce a poster, and not all of those assessments are individual assessments as well. There'll be an element of group work too. And this is to help students develop different types of skills, and also in recognition of the fact that all students are different. You all have different strengths, and we want to allow you all to be able to develop those different skills in different areas. I mentioned earlier the personal tutor system. So every one of our students is allocated a personal tutor in their first year. You're invited to meet with them on a weekly basis, and then as often as you feel is appropriate throughout the rest of your degree. Your personal tutor is there really so that everybody has one person that they feel like they can go to ask any questions about university life. And your personal tutor will know which support services to direct you onto, or which parts of the university you need to go to for any particular issues that you might be facing, or any additional support that you need. For example, helping you to navigate the support services that are available to students with learning difficulties. We also have a very good staff to student ratio. So to give you an idea, we have approximately 30 full-time history staff in the school. And last year we had an intake of around 70 or 80 students on the history degree programs. So our history degrees are designed to help you develop these different skills, as I mentioned. These are in relation to kind of very independent working skills, being self-motivated, managing your own time, paying attention to detail. Research skills, really, really important, and I think really valuable in a really wide range of different kind of careers. In terms of analytical and evaluation skills, when you're analysing primary sources or historical documents, when you're reading these fragments of the past, you'll be developing a kind of critical questioning. And you might be doing this in relation to textual or other kinds of data analysis. So this is a kind of problem solving, which again is sort of really valuable in a range of different career paths. History students will develop very good communication skills, both oral, verbal skills in giving presentations, but also developing arguments in written pieces of work. But also, as I said, you might be asked to produce different types of written work. So it's not just essays. You might be asked to produce a report, to write a blog post, for example. So shorter form writings, as well as the kind of longer form traditional university essay. And finally, there, a global mindset, I think. I mean, history is very much about empathy. You're trying to understand how people in the past understood the world, why they made the decisions that they made, and how they came to see the world around them. So I think this can really help and translate into a kind of a cultural awareness that can be really helpful when working with international organizations, or really just finding yourself in a very different context in different workplaces. Okay, so moving towards the last few minutes, employability then is something that's really embedded into our degree programs. You can opt in for a year in industry. So this is something new that we've started to offer from this year. So this is where you would make your 3-year degree a 4-year degree by spending a year working in industry. But we also have a number of placement-based options, such as the History in the Classroom module, if you're interested in a career in the education sector or teaching in particular, Heritage Field Project, or the Parliamentary Studies module. We have a range of paid internship opportunities available, and also heritage volunteering opportunities. So you can see some of those different opportunities listed here. I mentioned the study abroad program. Again, like the year in industry, this allows you to transfer to a 4-year degree program and spend the 3rd year of your degree studying in a university in another country. We have established partnerships with a really wide range of universities in Europe, but also other parts of the world. South Korea, for example, where you can see one of our students, Emma, pictured here. So she's in South Korea this year. We also have this new Global Citizen Study Abroad program, which allows you to study anything, anywhere. So you can literally take a different set of modules in a different subject in a university in another country, if you're keen, again, to have that experience and to do something different for a year. We also have the Turing scheme, which has replaced the Erasmus scheme at universities across the UK. That offers these internships abroad. And if you're interested in spending some time abroad, but the year abroad is maybe slightly daunting, then you might be interested to look at the summer school programs that the university offers in China, South Korea, or Taiwan. There's a list here then of some of the different career paths that our recent graduates have gone into, and hopefully again this could really sort of illustrates how flexible a history degree can be, and the many different kinds of options that you have from graduating with a history degree. So including those sort of more historical subjects or historical sectors, sorry, such as like the heritage sector or teaching, as I mentioned. But also civil service, management, recruitment, marketing. And you can see on this slide where some of our recent graduates, again, those who were on who were lucky enough to go on the field trip to Seville a few years ago, you can see the different kinds of career paths and further kind of higher education studies that that they went on to, including training as a barrister, somebody going into the army, somebody else going on to do a PhD in Cambridge. So really wide range of different career paths. Finally then, just 2 more slides. So we tend to make typical offers of ABB to BBB at A-level, but we do also accept mixed qualifications and equivalent UCAS points. We do include and accept the EPQs, so we recognise that they're a really important thing for students to be doing. I think especially in sort of preparing you for that kind of independent study that you will experience at university. It's a similar offer for the joint honours degree courses, and we do often have capacity to accept students who have just missed their offers, as to most universities these days, and priority is given to those students who select Leicester as their firm choice. So why Leicester? Well, studying history at Leicester gives you the opportunity to be part of a very close-knit and friendly community. We offer teaching and accommodation close to the university campus. You can choose from living in the village, living in the city. So there's something to suit everybody in that respect. And Leicester really is a very vibrant, multicultural city with a fascinating and rich history of its own, from finding kings under car parks, the story of Richard III that hopefully you've heard about already, to stories of migration and sporting miracles. So we'd be really interested to hear any questions that you have about the degree programme today. But do also feel free to get in touch with me. There's my email address again on the slide there. You can also contact my colleague, Professor Joe Story, who's one of the admissions tutors in the school as well. But before we open up for questions, I'm very pleased that we've got one of our current students with us today, Sophie Swan. Sophie studies international history, international relations and history, and she's going to give you a bit of an insight in what it's like to be one of our students at Leicester. So over to you, Sophie.
Leicester's been really quite an amazing experience for me. I mean, this is my third year now, so sort of getting ready to start moving out and thinking about next steps and everything. But it's been really good to look back as well and just, yeah, I can't believe it's been nearly 3 years already. So I think really one of the biggest pluses for Leicester, I guess, is the amount of choice that you get in terms of modules and the amazing kind of diversity in the types of modules you can do. So that was actually one of the reasons I chose to come here in the first place. When I was looking at universities, I actually tried to sort of map out what my degree would be like, and at Leicester I couldn't choose because there was just so many options. So it is really it makes such a big difference to have all these modules that you can choose from and to really get to build your own degree and just choose whatever you want to study, and anything that sounds interesting you can find a way to get there. So that was one of my favorite parts of this. And also that Leicester itself it's quite small, the campus and the department itself. I mean, in terms of like some of the bigger universities around here, you know, you've got Manchester, you've got Birmingham and Loughborough and Warwick, and they're all like really massive. But here it's a bit smaller, it's a bit more yeah, like intimate, I guess. So you really get to know your lecturers, you get to know your sort of peers quite well as well, because you're all meeting up and you kind of pop in here and there's like one group of people, you pop in there and there's another group of people, and it's always moving, but then you kind of come back together in different places, and it's really fun. You get to learn together, and then like the lecturers, because you do get to talk to them one-on-one as well as in sort of growing smaller and smaller class sizes, so you get to know them as well. And it's quite fun so like Zoe I knew from first year, but then we kind of meet up again in third year again, so you get to they get to catch up, and you sort of you sort of make friends with your lecturers at the same time as with your other people. And then they're great because they are literally researching now what they're teaching you. Like yesterday we had a seminar, I was doing the Chinese history, and Dr. Lincoln, Toby, he was talking about something that he's literally now researching and writing up into an article. So he said you're getting teaching that hasn't even been published yet, which is always quite good. So yeah, they're people who are really passionate and really interested in what they're learning at the same time as teaching it to you. So it makes a massive difference. You can tell that they're really into what they're teaching. They really love what they're teaching about. And then I also love doing the joint degree. So like you said, we're doing history with international relations, and I think it really it's good because you get to sort of build them together and they go together really well. But also you're learning sort of two different skill sets and two different styles of writing and research. So it's sort of extra bonus learning on top of everything else. So yeah, I think those are probably my top 3 reasons why I enjoy being at Leicester.
Thank you, Sophie. So we're happy to take any questions. So please submit your questions, and we look forward to answering them.
We haven't had any currently from the attendees, but one from myself, Zoe. What does a typical day look like for a history student at Leicester?
I think Sophie might be best placed to answer that. So I can tell you a typical day in the life of a lecturer, but you're probably more interested to hear Sophie's perspective. So I'll hand over to you for that one, Sophie.
Well, I don't know if there is such a thing as a typical day, really. It really depends on, your timetable changes sort of every semester, so it keeps it interesting. But if I have lectures and seminars on that day, obviously I'm going into campus, I'm going to those, and that's, so it changes a bit over the years. You start off with sort of 2 1-hour lectures and then a 1-hour seminar, and that's sort of scattered throughout the week. And then now, as we come to this year, I've got more sort of, they do either 3-hour seminars, or you just do a 1-hour teaching session and then a 2-hour seminar. So it's a lot more kind of discussion based and a lot more, you go away, you do your reading and you think about what you're talking about, and you come back and you're ready to talk about things and ask your questions and get into it a bit. So it's really fun. And then if I'm not doing that, I'll probably be in the library, and there's sort of silent study spaces if you just want to sit and really focus. Or there's some more what we call the social spaces as well. So there's bits where you can talk and you've got sort of more comfortable chairs, and you can eat there, and it's a bit more relaxed, a bit more, you just have a chat and do your work at the same time sometimes. So it really depends. Sometimes I'm just at home and I've got my, oh goodness, what have I got here? Wilfred in the, I don't know if you can see the books, but you take your books out, you take them home, and you do a bit of work at home on your laptop, because as Zoe was saying, a lot of the resources are available online as well, so you don't have to be in the library to do your work. You can do a lot of your research from home. So it really depends. I mean, wherever you're most comfortable doing your own study, that's where you do it. And if you want to meet up with other people, you can do it at the library. And you really get to build your own study schedule, your study life, and make your decisions. It's really good.
Maybe I could add to that. Thank you, Sophie. Just to say that we do also offer, I know some students find it difficult when they come to university, making that transition from school or college where they've had a much fuller timetable. So we do offer quite a lot of support in terms of, how to get better at managing your time. Each of the modules that you will study on your degree program come with a kind of a suggested amount of hours that you should spend on different activities and different tasks within the module. And so those guidelines can give you an idea of how you should be planning your time. But I think, as Sophie said as well, it's not all, doesn't all have to be kind of individual, isolated, working at home by yourself. There are lots of social spaces. We encourage our students to learn together as part of the learning community. So it doesn't have to be a lonely kind of pursuit doing a degree subject.
Great. We've had a question basically about the range of books and articles available at the library. So the range that's available for students.
Yeah, we have a pretty good range of materials available. So the way that it works with the modules is we put together these electronic reading lists each year. Those get updated. We can order new materials into the library for those particular modules. So when new research is published, we can make sure that we've got those new books there on the electronic reading lists for students to access either online, or we can get chapters of books or single articles digitized and made available for students to access that way. We do still have physical, real hard copies of books, as Sophie just shared with you, and we, do encourage our students to read real books, and hopefully you're excited about and you enjoy reading, and that's one of the reasons why you want to study a degree in history. If there's anything that we don't have in the library, we have an interlibrary loans system, so you can borrow books or resources from other university libraries, so that's an option too. So we're very well resourced in terms of the modules that we teach and the areas that we focus our research specialisms around.
Brilliant. Can you provide some advice on what to get involved with prior to applying to university?
Yeah, I think if there's anything happening locally in your community, history or kind of heritage related, that can be a great thing to be involved in. Maybe any kind of oral history groups or volunteering in a local museum. Sometimes there are kind of sort of amateur history societies, or actually probably a good thing to look out for is if there's a local branch of the Historical Association, because they tend to put on a series of talks. You can attend some of those talks in person or online. And that really sort of gives you an insight into the kinds of lectures that you might hear as part of your degree at university. So yeah, finding out what's going on in your town, in your city, in your local library, those kinds of institutions. And if you have any kind of questions about that, if you can't find the contact details for the Historical Association, that's the kind of thing you can contact us about, and we can give you some advice. I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that question, Sophie.
Yeah, I think it was a bit difficult because obviously my first year of university was COVID, so everything kind of shut down a little bit just before I could get anywhere with doing. I think History Association, I did a couple of their talks and stuff before I came, so they're really interesting, and they've got loads of really broad, like they talk about everything. It's quite amazing. Other thing good, if you can't sort of get out, what's really good, there's some really good like BBC Sounds or podcasts on history that give you, if you just want to find out a bit more about something and you can't really, like there's nothing around you can get to easily, then they're really good just to give you some ideas on just different areas and to start thinking about what kind of history, what different histories you really enjoy, and to find a way to focus in on different topics, because I mean there's a lot of history and there's a lot of there's a lot of ways you can study it, there's a lot of ways you can look at it, and a lot of different topics you can look at. So I think that was something I really enjoyed doing, was just listening to different random podcasts and going, oh, I wasn't so interested in that, but it was okay, and then finding other things that was like, wow, this is something I really want to find out more about. So that was something I used to enjoy doing. I should get back into that actually.
Any more questions, Lauren?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple in here. So how big is the history department? How many lecturers are there? And on average, how many students are at each lecture?
Yeah, so we have around 30 historians in the school. So in that sense, we're probably kind of a mid-sized history department. There are certainly history departments in other universities that are much bigger, of sort of 80 and upwards historians, and then there are others that are much smaller, of maybe sort of only 5 or 6. So we're kind of in the middle in terms of how we compare to other UK universities. We have, I think I mentioned, we have around sort of between 70 and 80, I think, history first years, or first years who are on history undergraduate degree programs. So that includes some of the joint programs as well as the single honours history. It varies slightly. We've got a slightly smaller second year and then a slightly bigger third year. So intake varies from one year to the next. But again, I think we have it's probably a mid-sized kind of cohort as well, which is perfect for the size of the department, really. So not so many students that you'll feel completely lost, but enough that you'll meet lots of interesting people from all across the country. And we have a very vibrant international student community at Leicester as well. Very diverse student body at Leicester, which we're really pleased reflects the diversity of Leicester as a city.
Great, that's all the questions that we've got in the Q&A currently.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for attending, everybody, and please do get in touch. We'd love to hear from you.